Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending wherever you are in the world, and welcome to a brand new video on the channel where we are going to be looking at how I personally think Erik Ten Hag, Ruud van Nistelrooy and René Hek are going to set up this Manchester United team in 2024-25 season. We're just going to be going through the starting 11, so all the graphics you'll see on screen will just be the starting 11. We're going to go through who is most likely going to play, what formation and system he will end up playing in my opinion, and we're also going to give you guys some signings that are more than likely going to happen for Manchester United this season, and we're also going to go towards the end. I'm going to give you my opinion on how I would love Manchester United to play with the players that we do have. So starting off in goal, we have Andre Onana. Not really much to say. We bought him for 50 million from Inter Milan. He had a really torrid start for Manchester United in his career. 28 years of age is pretty good for a goalkeeper. It's relatively young. I think the prime ages for goalkeepers are in the early 30s, so he's got a long time left. We bought him to be a ball-playing goalkeeper. We didn't get to see that too much because of the amount of injuries we had at the back, not allowing us to be able to kind of build up from the back as we would like to. But I think this season we're definitely going to be able to hopefully see him back to how he was playing for Inter Milan and kind of breaking pressing from all sorts of teams, which has become the norm, especially in the Premier League. Even with the lower league teams, they like to press up high up the pitch when the goalkeeper's got it. So if he can start breaking those lines and we can get out quicker, it's going to give us even more time because teams are going to be more wary about pushing up so high. So I think Andre Onana is going to be the starting goalkeeper. Our backup is Bienda. He only played one game and it was in a cup, unfortunately for him. I'm not sure if he's going to stay throughout the entire season. I don't know if he could go on loan. There is rumblings that he does want first team football, and if he's not going to be able to get it here, then he would move away. We do have Tom Heaton in reserve as well, so if Bienda does move on, then we do have ample of backup for Andre Onana. Now, going into the right back position, we have Diogo Dalot, 25 years of age. He played 36 games with three assists and 2 goals. He was arguably Manchester United's most consistent performer and best player for the entire year. So I watched all of the Premier League games. I watched most of the Champions League games. The only things that I couldn't watch because of where I was the cup games, like the Carabao Cup, up until when I came back to England. Then I could watch. Excuse me. So I think Diogo Dalot, in my opinion, I've loved him ever since he came to the club. He's shown progression each season, and I think the loan move to AC Milan for him really changed him. He's now able to be able to defend really smartly. He's aggressive in all challenges. He recovers extremely well, which is something that Aaron Wan-Bissaka also does. But the thing with Dalot and the thing that he offers Ten Hag, he's very versatile. So he can play left back. He did play left back for quite a while when Luke Shaw was injured. And he can invert on the left and become part of a midfield. He's technically good enough to be in those small pockets as well. He's able to play out. He's got lots of tricks up his book. His delivery is very good, and unfortunately only having 3 assists, it is something that I would really like to get up this season. But considering how kind of poor we were offensively and creating so many chances for the striker, well, so few chances for the striker, I'm not surprised that he did end up with 3 assists only. But he will start. Obviously, I have mentioned Aaron Wan-Bissaka. If he stays at the club, he will be the number 2 choice, unless we go out and get ourselves somebody like Jeremy Frimpong. I don't think it's very likely. Obviously, Frimpong is part of the Dutch team in the Euros at the moment, so it's all gone a little bit quiet with him, hence why I think Dalot will start. it could be a sensational move for Frimpong, and of course Frimpong starts over Dalot in my opinion. He offers just far too much going forwards compared to Dalot. But yeah, I think Dalot will start the season. We're going to move on to the right-sided centre-back now, and that's going to be our first signing of the season, Matthijs de Ligt. Of course, it hasn't been announced yet. This is currently the 8th of July, but there are quite a few players that are very, very close, if not all but guaranteed to sign, and Matthijs de Ligt is one of these players that are really, really, really hot. And close to joining Manchester United. He has prioritised Manchester United over other teams that are interested, which is a huge bonus for us. Only 24 years of age. He only played 22 games in the Bundesliga. For whatever reason, he was out of favour by the manager. He had, I think, a month, maybe a month and a half injury when it was his tendons or ligaments in his knee. But I don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. He's been relatively fit when he played for Ajax and also Juventus. And being at Juventus at 19 years old, he was captain and took them to a semi-final. So this man, he brings to the team, brings a lot of leadership and kind of defensive qualities that you need. And we struggled immensely when it came to defending last season. Whether it be high up the pitch, whether it be pressing, whether it be just organisation and kind of people staying fit, De Ligt will offer that, and especially, you know, alongside a stable partner, which we didn't have. We had so many different partnerships, whether it be Willy Cambuala, Johnny Evans, Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Varane, Martinez. There were so many different pairs, and if we're able to kind of solidify and get a guaranteed back two, maybe, you know, if we have to rotate, we have 3 centre backs that rotate pretty naturally. I think that will be perfect. And Matthijs de Ligt, already having worked with Erik ten Hag, Onana as well, and alongside his partner, which is Lisandro Martinez, 26 years old. So they're again very, very kind of young. Martinez is going now into his prime. Only played 11 games this season. Unfortunately got injured a few times, and the last one being against West Ham, where I think Kufal it was, who fell on his knee, which is really unfortunate, and then put him out towards the end of the season. But he is now back. He's playing with Argentina in the Copa America, and I think there's a stat that I saw: in his last 7 games since coming back from injuries, he's played 7 and he's won 7, or he hasn't lost a single game, and he's only conceded 3 goals, which is insane. And I think Pep Guardiola also said he is within the top 5 centre backs in Europe, and I 100% agree. This man is 100% necessary, and he needs to stay fit for this Manchester United side to be able to play how Erik ten Hag wants to. He is a natural leader. You can see here, if you ever watch Manchester United, he is the one organising. He is the one kind of, you know, getting into tackles, being really aggressive, winning the ball high up the pitch, being super composed on the ball, allowing the team to kind of relax and distribute the ball really well. He's got a fantastic passing range, same as De Ligt. They both are very progressive and ball dominant centre halves, which will allow Andre Onana, again, it will allow him that little bit of ease of pressure, where he can then play it to the centre halves. Nothing just is relied on him. Whether, you know, he has centre backs in front of him that aren't as comfortable, shy away from the ball a little bit, which we did see. Now you're going to have 2 centre halves that want the ball. They want to be able to progress the play. They can both carry it. They're both strong. They're both aggressive, and they're not slow either. I did see a couple of comparisons with De Ligt to Harry Maguire, which I think is really, really unfair. But I think if these two kind of stay together, it will be a really, really good and solid backline. Loads of leadership, and if Bruno Fernandes does ever leave the club, I think Martinez will be the one that puts the captain's armband on. He has that much of an influence in this team already. So moving on to left back, we have Luke Shaw. If he stays fit, again, he only played 12 games this season, 28 years of age, so he should be in his physical prime. Unfortunately, his career has just been derailed by an ungodly amount of injuries, whether it be muscle injuries, the leg break. He's never really been the same since. But if he is to kind of stay fit, we do need to bring somebody else in. At the moment, there is, I think, the Girona left back. Is it Gutierrez? We're being linked to him now with a potential with other players going to Girona, which is really interesting because he's an incredible left back. But we do need a replacement, in my opinion, for Luke Shaw because he can't play 38 games just in the Premier League. You would have seen the stats kind of on the right hand side. All of these stats are just from the Premier League. They're not there's no cup competitions, there's no European competitions in there. These stats are just from the Premier League. So yeah, I think Luke Shaw, if he's fit, 100% starts. He offers so much to this team, and especially for the forward players that he plays behind, it increases their productivity because he's such a threat on the overlap and even underlap that it kind of drags defenders away. And when you leave, defenders with a one-on-one situation with the types of quick attacking players that we do have, it leads to so many chances that we can start creating. So he's really important to have. We do have a couple backups in Harry Amas, who's really young. I don't think it will be his season to kind of play loads of games. I think it will be, if we do, we'll end up buying somebody at left back, whether it be that Gutierrez or getting a loan in like Reguilon from Spurs again. I think that there is actually interest in Reguilon from Manchester United to re-sign him, and I don't think that would be a terrible kind of decision. They can both do the same role. I think Luke Shaw is much better than Reguilon, but if he can't stay fit, it doesn't really matter how good he is. But he is fit. He did come on for England in the Euros, so hopefully he'll be able to start the season and maintain his place. In terms of the centre-backs, I didn't mention, we do obviously have Harry Maguire, Lindelof and Johnny Evans. If one of those goes, then I think we'll be picking up somebody else, and in my opinion, the most likely is probably Branthwaite, depending on price. So from Everton, Jarrad Branthwaite, who has worked with Ruud van Nistelrooy at PSV when he was there as their manager, so they already have this kind of bond, and he knows what to expect and he knows how to get the best out of him, which would really benefit Branthwaite if he's to come in. It just kind of depends on the price now. But yeah, that's going to be the back four. And with that back four, I think there is so much potential to have such a solid defensive season again if everyone stays fit. And that is the hardest thing now. We had so many injuries. But yeah, if we do stay fit and healthy and we have good rotation, good backup players, and not having to play, different players that can't play the system that Erik ten Hag wants to play, then I think we're in for a much, much better season. Moving on to the midfield, this is another signing. So from PSG, Manuel Ugarte, 23 years of age, and another young player. Ineos want to sign players under the age of 25. They want to build for the future. They don't want to bring in, these 28, 29, 30-year-olds that we have been doing for the last 8 years. It's been crazy the type of transfers that we've brought in. Of course, there's time that we do need to bring in experience, but at the moment I think a complete overhaul with signings like De Ligt and Ugarte, 23 years of age, as I said. Played 25 games in the league, 3 assists. He also played all the games in the Cup and Champions League for PSG. If you want to kind of describe his role and how he plays, he's a destructive midfielder. He wins the ball back. His tackle percentage is really high, but he can also play. He's very good on the turn. He's very good kind of keeping possession. I haven't actually watched a whole host of his gameplay, so I'm not entirely sure if he's the type of player to be able to dictate play. Kind of like Michael Carrick, who would sit deeper, obviously intercept passes and then distribute the ball really well. I don't know if he's that type of player, but it would be really interesting. From what I have seen, he's a really aggressive and ball kind of, he just wants to go and win the ball back, which is something that we've lacked. Yes, we had Casemiro and he was incredible last season. Well, not the season just gone, the season prior, but it just looks as if his legs have gone. He doesn't have it in him to make up the type of ground that Ten Hag wants and this team needs. So I think Ugarte, if he comes in, will be an incredible addition to this midfield, and he would partner in my opinion, one of the best players for us again last season and in the Euros currently, playing really, really well now that he's getting his starts, and that's going to be Kobbie Mainoo. So 19 years old. You would have seen Ugarte as a central defensive midfielder, a CDM, but in my opinion, Kobbie Mainoo is more of a CM, a central midfielder, where he can kind of mix both. He can get forward and kind of influence the attacking play, get goals, get assists, as well as the defensive side as well. I think he is more inclined offensively than he is defensively, but he's really not a type of player that you need to kind of hide in a system defensively. But yeah, Kobbie Mainoo, incredible. I loved watching him this season. 100% probably the biggest bright spark of the season. He really did bring a lot of United fans together. It was incredible watching him in pre-season. Even in the first game, I was like, oh, this guy can really play. And unfortunately, getting that injury, putting his career kind of on hold for a few months, which was a real shame. But when he came into the team, it just looked as if he never skipped a beat, never missed a day. And what a player he's going to be. At the end of kind of the formation and stuff, I'm going to then go into what I think Ten Hag will want from these players, and then you can kind of get a general gist of how each player in this system will kind of perform. But Kobbie Mainoo, everybody knows what he's going to offer, and I think this next season, only be 19 years old, which is insane. I think he's going to be able to offer so much more offensively in this coming season. Moving on to the number 10, we have Bruno, the captain, El Capitano, 29 years of age. He has been asking around and speaking to other clubs. Personally, I think that's just kind of his way of trying to get a new contract and being the most paid player at the club, and I think it's deserved, to be honest. A lot of players who are paid more than him don't offer anything anywhere near what Bruno does in terms of work rate, availability, goals and assists, just everything. He gives this team everything that we need, and towards the end of the season even played as a false nine and performed ridiculously well, being super influential in both. I think he played there for 3 games and in the FA Cup final, which we did end up winning as well. No small thanks to Bruno. In terms of his stats, he played 35 games in the league, 10 goals and 8 assists, so an 18 goal contributions in 35 games, and he's been like this pretty much his entire Manchester United career. So he's definitely a player that we need to keep. We need to keep him happy. He can have the captain's armband, that's not a problem. As I said, if he does end up leaving, going somewhere else because of contract disputes, or he just wants a different challenge or something, then I think Lisandro Martinez will be the captain. But for now, Bruno Fernandes is the talisman of this team. We need to keep him, we need to get the ball to him, but he needs to stay as that number 10, because the strikers that we had in Rasmus Højlund, he was isolated a little bit too much, which is why I think Ten Hag kind of adapted to this false nine system, where Fernandes had to be that kind of focal point and he had to stay there. And you could see how influential he was when he got on the ball, creating so many chances, scoring goals. and putting in really solid performances at the end of the season. So hopefully he's going to carry on in that vein of form. Played really well for Portugal as well at the Euros. Unfortunately, they have now been knocked out, which gives him a little bit of a rest, and well deserved too. So hopefully he comes back after pre-season, raring to go for the start of the Premier League season, and can get that type of goal contribution again. Moving on to the left wing, we have Alejandro Garnacho. So this is the position where you could put two players. Obviously you have Garnacho and you also have Marcus Rashford. Both players can interchange in this left hand side, especially if you have Luke Shaw on the overlap. If you go and look at the stats between Marcus Rashford when Luke Shaw plays and when he doesn't, the output of Marcus Rashford when Luke Shaw does play is incredible compared to when he doesn't. So if Luke Shaw is going to be fit, you could start Rashford here and then put Garnacho on the right. But with how I think Ten Hag will want to play, and going off of kind of last season and how poor Marcus Rashford was, I think Garnacho kind of gets the nod. Especially he played 36 games out of 38 too, which is incredible for a 20-year-old. Playing some games where he looked like he'd run an absolute marathon before being taken off, and even some games, playing 120 minutes in cup games and never stopping running as well. So he had a really good season, a more productive season than his last one. 36 games, as I said, 7 goals and 4 assists this time. I think for all of our wingers, assists need to improve a lot more rather than goals. Of course, everyone's going to get involved in scoring goals, but getting assist to the striker is the probably number one priority in pre-season. Making sure we create really good chances for our striker, because if our striker's scoring goals and then everyone else is chipping in also, it's going to be so much easier for this team that there isn't just pressure on one player or Bruno to create something, a bit of magic where everyone is contributing, looking for each other. But I think Garnacho can do that. He has shown he can go out on the outside, cross with his left foot, he can cut in on his right and shoot. And when he does play on the right hand side as well, he creates chances, still score goals. So a really important player for Ten Hag, and a player he brought through as well. So I think he'll stick with him on that left side, and as I said, Rashford as the backup. In terms of backup for Bruno and Mainu and Ugarte and all that stuff, we have obviously Scott McTominay. I think Casemiro, depending if he goes or stays, he is there as well. There's a young lad, Collier, who I think will be integrated into the first team. If you haven't gone and checked him out, make sure you go and do. He's a young lad. I think he's 20 years of 19, 20. Really good player, and kind of the similar situation as Cobby, where Ten Hag was kind of looking after him after the FA Cup final, speaking to him the exact same thing that he did to Cobby the year before. So I think Collier is going to be the one to step forward. We have Mason Mount as well. But speaking of Mason Mount, this is where I think Ten Hag could utilise him. Of course, you have Amad Diallo and a whole host of other players like Anthony, who he brought in for 80 million, which is unbelievable. To be honest, I have no idea why we paid that amount of money for Anthony. But I think personally Mason Mount will be the one to start on the right hand side. Now I'll go into this as to why I think that personally. But we bought him for 50 million or 55 million. He wears the number 7 shirt. There's no way we bought him to be a bench player with all of that in mind. He just had a bit of a tough season when it came to injuries. Playing 14 games, only scoring the 1 goal, 0 assists as well, but most of those coming from the bench too. He's only 25, so he's got plenty of years left in him, and he is the type of player. So if you go and look at Ten Hag's Ajax team, when he had Anthony out on the right and then he had Tadic, who is a natural number 10, out on the left wing, you can kind of get a sense as to why I've put Mason Mount out here instead of like an Amad Diallo or an Anthony. Of course, I think Diallo actually could play this role exactly the same, Being left-footed, it offers more of a threat scoring-wise when you cut in from the right-hand side, being left-footed. But I think Mason Mount, in terms of creativity, is something that we did miss out on a lot last season. So I think Mason Mount could play this role, especially with, you know, wearing the number 7 and all of that kind of added pressure on him. It probably would be some sort of way to fit him into a team and a system that Ten Hag wants to play. Of course, he obsessed with signing Mason Mount, so there's no way, as I said, he's going to be a bench player. It's more than likely going to be starting somewhere this season. Moving on to the striker and the final player in the first 11, it's going to be Joshua Zirkzee from Bologna, 23 years of age. He played 34 games for Bologna, got them into the Champions League, scored 11 goals and 5 assists in the League 2. He is a completely different profile of player to a Rasmus Højlund, who started up front for us last year. He's more of a deep lying forward, not quite a false 9. He 100% could play there, but he's almost like a number 10 who's playing as a striker. He drops into holes, he links up extremely well, he holds the ball up. I think he's 6'3", so he's got a big frame on him as well. Quick, his both feet really good technically. He's kind of almost the opposite of Rasmus, where Rasmus likes to run into channels and kind of drive at opponents, using his kind of speed, getting in behind and getting on the end of things and being like a natural number 9, whereas Zirkzee is like a number 10, as I said, kind of dropping in, using his technical ability, opening up the pitch, driving into. He does prefer kind of going over to that left hand side and finishing with his left foot, which is his weaker foot. You could never really tell. A really good technical player. But I think this is going to be the starting 11 that we could go with. If you guys agree with me, put it down in the comments. If you disagree with me, also put it down in the comments and tell me who you think is going to start. But with that, I'm then going to show you the final system as to how and why I think Ten Hag will go with these players. So Ten Hag, for the majority, when he was at Ajax and at Manchester United, he likes building up in this 3-1, and then it always kind of changes, but it's normally 3-1-6, where there's 6 attacking players all up the pitch, there's 1 kind of holding, and then you have 3 defenders where you can build up from. And with this team, it offers you everything. So you have Andre Onana in goal, obviously, then you have De Ligt coming out to the right of the then 3. You have Martinez slightly more central, Luke Shaw as an inverted kind of option, with Dalot then pushing up far up, which I think suits everyone. With Luke Shaw having so many injuries, being asked to kind of charge up and down the pitch all game long is really tough on him. And having this slightly more reserved role, as you can see with the dotted line, he will 100% make overlapping runs if and when he needs to. He is a really intelligent player. He can do that all game too. But I think being 28 years of age, Jesus, and also having so many injuries, having him as this left-sided centre-back, inverted full-back type position, I think he would really benefit and kind of suit this role. And it also offers us a really good rest defence with Ugarte as the main pivot, kind of shuttling side to side. If the ball is kind of played out quickly from the press, he can go out there, win the ball back. If not, commit fouls high up the pitch, which is going to be really good. As I said, Dalot out on the right hand side, driving forward, getting down this byline, with Garnacho holding the width on the left. So the 2 lines, obviously he can drive left, but he can also do a little bit of a skill coming on his right foot, which then offers up either a really quick kind of cross to the back post or loads and loads of shooting opportunities for Garnacho. And alongside, if you have, as I said, Joshua Zirkzee prefers this kind of left hand side channel. With Zirkzee dropping in, there's going to be so much link play between them, and then Kobe, who is slightly deeper, who naturally roams anywhere alongside Bruno, who kind of goes wherever the ball is. Hence I've got so many arrows coming from Bruno. He just let Bruno do Bruno things, and this kind of takes the pressure away from not having somebody super close to Zirkzee, because this is where Mason Mount will go. So this is why I did put him out on the right, as I said, with Tadic, who was out on the left, and Anthony on the right hand side, with Tadic coming in as like another number 10. This is where I think Mason Mount can make late runs to the box. He can also come in and create if Bruno Fernandes, drops or goes to another position. He's going to be in the types of positions that he's used to. But I think this would really benefit kind of Mount's playing style, and complement everyone else alongside it. So that's how I think he'll actually play with the entire team, and the system that I believe that he would want to play. I think it will be very malleable, whether it be a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. As you can see, it can very easily give you a 4-3-3 shape, maybe against the slightly lesser teams, although the Premier League is very difficult all teams round. It doesn't really matter who you play, bottom, top of the table, it's all really tough. But I'm going to really quickly show you my personal opinion on how I would love to see this team play, and it's actually a 4-4-2. This is just going to be the defensive shape. Naturally and normally, when you see formations, it's just for a defensive kind of system, because when people have the ball, everybody moves around, everyone becomes flexible, dropping into different positions. This 4-4-2 could easily be a 4-3-3, it could easily be a 4-2-3-1, it could easily even be a 3 at the back. So it doesn't really matter kind of what shape you start in, it's what shape you move to, which is why I think having Dalot, De Ligt, Martinez and Shaw as the back four, that's going to stay exactly the same. Mainu and Ugarte again will stay the same. Garnacho out on the left, but this time Bruno Fernandes out on the right with Zirkzee and Rasmus. I personally love Rasmus Højlund. I think he's incredible. Watching his movement at the start when he did come in for us was really good. In making those kind of darting runs, he didn't get the ball a lot, making the runs to the near post, trying to get on the end of things. He was really unlucky not to score more goals than he did. He probably should have scored more goals, but his movement was incredible, and I think he was being asked to play in a way that doesn't really suit him that much, and playing alongside somebody else, which he did at Atalanta, will get the best out of him. With Zirkzee kind of dropping a little bit deeper, it allows Rasmus to do what he does best, which is play off the last man's shoulder, get in behind, get on those chances, attack the box, and then leave the kind of build-up play to other players who suit it better. And I think having these two up front, both being 6'3", I believe both of them are, it would really, again, if we're struggling a little bit, it would offer even an out ball where we have to go long. They're both going to be able to win some headers, knock-ons, flick-ons, anything like that. So I think this is going to be a really good one. And then the final shape would look like this. So again, it's almost like a 3, but this time with Andre Onana in the middle, De Ligt and Martinez going wide, Ugarte still being the kind of main man. But this is why I put Bruno out on the right hand side. Again, he's just going to kind of drift into wherever he wants. Kind of like if you think about David Beckham when he played, he wasn't an out and out winger. He was more of a wide playmaker where he came inside, dictated the play, got on the ball a lot, crosses from deep, driving at opponents, shooting, finding passes, switching over to the other side. And in this case it will be Garnacho again who can drive at people, link up with Zirkzee still, but then you have that added threat of Rasmus Højlund trying to get on the end of things. It would cause so much chaos, and you would have so much attacking potential within this system. You would also be able to press really high and efficiently, having that kind of extra player forward instead of having 3 defenders as the back 3. With Onana as integrated into that back 3, it will allow you even more pressure up the pitch. And this is how I would personally love to see Manchester United play. But if you have any of your own ideas, make sure you drop it down in the comments. I would love to read all of your kind of ideas on team selection, even potential transfers that you would love to see at Manchester United. But yeah, this is actually going to be the end of the video. I'm sorry it's gone on for quite a long time, 35 minutes. I was hoping it would be a little bit shorter, but I love talking about tactics. I love talking about Manchester United. So I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have. If you have, make sure you leave a like and also comment, as I said, everything you wish to down below. Subscribe to the channel. And if you have any other ideas that you want me to kind of look at, whether it be Manchester United or somewhere else, I'm really interested in learning about all this stuff. So that would be awesome. Put it down in the comments. But yeah, I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.